Hey guys! So when I wrote my first one shot, there were a bunch of things that I did that really slowed down my progress. So here's what I wish I knew back then. If you clicked onto this video, you're probably thinking of writing a manga, maybe a manga one shot for a competition or just for personal reasons. And by clicking onto this video, you're already on your way to improving your manga much faster. Because today I'm going to share with you what I have learned writing one shots. Hello everyone, I'm Katie. I'm an illustrator, manga artist, and content creator here on Instagram and YouTube. I wrote my first manga one-shot all the way back in 2013. I wrote a 45-page manga for a jump competition. It was a shonen manga and I was 13 at the time. It was all fun and games. I just had so much fun working on it, like the process of drawing it, thinking of the story, drawing the characters. I just had so much fun with it and I was completely content. I'm pretty sure I burnt out afterwards, but fast forward, I've written a bunch of manga in the last 3 years, ranging from 2 pages to 45 pages. I've won awards and have made my own comic book. Now that I have more experience, I want to share what I've learned with you guys. So without further ado, here are the things I wish I knew before starting my one-shots. The first thing I want to talk about is a mindset that's for artists in general, not just manga, not just for writing one-shots. Essentially, don't treat your work so preciously, because you're the one with the skills and knowledge to make the art. It's not the work itself that's important, it's you, the person behind the art that has the skills and the knowledge that is able to make the art. And as long as you have that knowledge, you can keep making better and better art. So the work itself is actually less important than you. This is when perfectionism can trap you, because you can actually keep reworking the same piece of work for the next 100 years and no one's there to stop you. However, when you want to prioritize growth as an artist, I find that sometimes it's better to just let that work go. Even if you don't think it's perfect and even if you don't think it's at the level of your standards, I think it's important to let a piece of work go, to like just post it and to just deliver it to the audience, even when you don't think it's completely perfect. So my rule of thumb here is to work something until it's around 80% of what you think is perfect. And after that point, just post it. Just deliver it to the audience and start working on your next piece, because you're always going to make something better. And with the knowledge that you learned from making this current piece, your next piece is going to be even better, because you're going to be someone who has one more work under their belt and has experienced more. So that's going to be a wiser version of you who's creating that next piece of work. And just trust in yourself and trust in your future self. Which brings me to the naming stage. Here I'm talking about the storyboard drafting stage, the pencils. And for this one, it's so possible to just keep redrawing and redrawing and redrawing, because every time you draw it, you're able to read it back as a reader. And as you read it over and over again, because you're gonna improve every time you write a storyboard, you're gonna be wiser and wiser. And there's a point where you need to stop redrawing the name. And I like to cap it at a maximum of 2 redraws. Obviously with each redraw, you're gonna get better and better, and you want the best possible manga. However, if you keep redrawing, you're not going to have any finished works. There's a fine line between having standards and perfectionism. I say limit redraws to 2 times because that's what works for me personally, but in the end, you're the only one that can know where the kind of balance lies within yourself. So try to be self-aware in that and not let perfectionism stop you from continuing your manga. Yeah, and another thing with naming, I used to name while listening to music, but as I kept working, I realized that I can't do that. So now I work in silence from the start of manga creation until I finish the name. And after that, I start listening to music while I sketch, ink, tone, and do final touches. I love making playlists for each story that I'm writing. And I love listening to music because it really gets me into the mood of like when I'm sketching something, especially the characters' emotions. I really love that. Yeah, but that's just me, because my partner said they watch Netflix shows while naming, and I'm like, Yo, that's amazing. Kind of jealous, but my main point is just because someone else listens to music doesn't mean you have to. Yeah, people have very different workflows, and test what feels good for you. And the next section will be some rapid fire tips for character design. It's really important to make the character recognizable by silhouette. As an example, do you know who these fellas are? Well, it's not a silhouette, it's a back view, but still you get the image. You know who these people are? I don't like KK. Next, dialogue. For dialogue, you want to write naturally, as if like the character was alive. And I think it helps when you imagine your character as someone in real life. What I mean is, don't force use manga sounding lines, especially if you're like me and grew up on like manga rock. You're gonna end up sounding like a fan scan. Tanaka-kun, I've always loved you from the beginning. So maybe I suggest watching some movies that you think are really cool and copy the dialogue, write a script for the movie and try to imagine your characters as a character in that movie. And in speaking of studying your favorites, analyze the manga panels that you love. And with every page that you really like, you want to ask yourself, why did the manga artist decide to draw this in this way in this page? And I have some recommendations for one-shots. I love one-shots by Taizan 5. I love Tatsuki Fujimoto, Atsumiko Nakamura, but in general, any of your favorite manga artists should have one-shots in their database. So just look out. So just have a search for that, and I hope you feel inspired. And next is, how long should your one-shot be? This one is interesting. I have notes about this from an old lecture that I watched. But basically, you want to frame the length of your one-shot around your goal. And kind of a little rule I made is, the shorter the one-shot, the more you're going to improve. And the longer the one-shot, and generally the longer one-shots are for publishing, competitions, things like that. But generally you're going to improve more when you do shorter one-shots. These are the standard one-shot lengths. So the page numbers go 8, 16, 24, 32, 40 plus. And for 8 pages, you want to illustrate just a scene, and you want to write about an interesting situation with a maximum of 2 to 3 characters. And this one, in the lecture that I watched, it's just too short to write a whole story, to write a proper fleshed out story. So just the scene is really, really cute and would be really, really nice. This one's perfect for like doujins or like just the character interaction to show your characters, OCs. And next is 16 pages. This one can be a short story, and with the climax around page 14 to 15. And this one, when you write it as a story plot, you can generally summarize it in around 9 paragraphs or less, with each paragraph containing 1 key point. Yeah, and the next is 24 pages. This one is a common standard. Something that was interesting, I thought, was why so many mangas are about high school. And it's because almost everyone that reads manga has been to high school. It's like a common kind of shared experience with all of us. Yeah, it's just a really common thing that most people have experienced, so most people can relate to. And relatability is a very key factor when you're writing manga. And this one can be summarized in around 11 paragraphs. Next is 32 pages. This one works really well for shonen and fantasy. This is less efficient for practice, and it's more for like competitions, or if you want to write a story and publish it, self-publish or pitch it. And 40 plus pages is like recommended for when you want to publish it or when you're working with an editor. And this one can be summarized around 15 paragraphs. So this one, I really don't recommend it if you're wanting to just improve manga by yourself. So instead, I would do 2 8-page manga and 1 24-page instead, or like even shorter, which is what I'm doing lately, and I'm posting it on Instagram at gentlecoda.manga on Instagram. Okay, but yeah, those are just estimates that I found on the lecture a few years back, And especially when you're less experienced and don't know how long you take, or when you don't know how you work, I found it as a great baseline for how I should work on my manga. With every one shot you do, you're gonna improve, and I want you to trust in that process and don't make every one shot perfect. Just keep going and keep writing. And even if you think it's bad, just trust in the process. You're gonna get better with each one shot that you write. And the shorter they are, the faster you're gonna go through these bad ideas. Just finishing a one shot will teach you so much more than perfection. Well, writing one shots isn't about adding the next perfect portfolio piece. It's about learning how to tell stories. It's learning how to show events, show emotions, and building confidence as an artist. And this whole mindset has helped me improve so much as a manga artist and as an artist, because I stopped being afraid to make manga, because you are what you do, and if you draw manga, you're a manga artist. So if you're working on a one shot right now, let me know what's the hardest part that you're struggling with. I'd love to hear your experiences. Okay, and that's all from me. I love you guys, and as usual, see you next week on the vlog. Bye.